What's up, guys? Specstar here today with my first battle of UNL, and not just my battle, but actually the kickoff battle for the whole season. And I'm going up here against a familiar foe in Thunder, who I've had some success against in the past 2 seasons. I hope to continue that and get off to the good start that we didn't exactly have last season. Last season we were able to rebound, but we don't want to have that obstacle to overcome this season. We'd like to get this thing rolling off on a good foot. He has got himself here a team consisting of Galvantula, Milotic, Megaseptile, Thunderous Therian, Arcanine, and Crobat, and let me switch right over to my team here. And I am starting out a little too low here. I've got myself a Mega Alakazam here, and my speed is creeping his Megaseptile, creeping Crobat, which is a little complicated. I didn't think he'd go all the way max speed. I thought he'd either just try to creep my Darkrai, or he would creep me creeping Crobat, and that's kind of my thought process there. I didn't want to sacrifice Timid, or I didn't want to sacrifice Modest and go Timid just to creep a Sceptile, which I didn't think would be max speed. So that's kind of my thought process here. Psychic, just spammable move. Energy Ball hits things like Milotic. Charge Beam hits the Steela, which didn't come, and it also turns this thing into kind of a threatening sweeper form because he doesn't take this thing's hits too well. So if I can get rid of his Scarfer, or if he doesn't have one, then it becomes very threatening. And Gleam hits both Sceptile, and if he did opt to bring it the Zweilous, it keeps that thing from hardwalling me. Next up here, I have got my Darkrai, and Darkrai is going to be Scarfed. It's good for outspeeding an Adamant Slurpuff if he did opt to bring it after his Unburden. It also just outpaces almost any Scarfer on his team he could possibly bring. Also outspeeds ×2 Celesteela, so there's a few things that Darkrai does with the speed. Dark Pulse, very spammable against him. Thunderbolt hits things like Steela. And Psychic hits things like the Pokemon that I do not remember. There was something that was definitely for making Machamp. Yeah, because Machamp can kind of wall this thing without Thunder. There we go. And Trick helps with some of his walls like Milotic if I did want to opt to give up my Scarf, which I may or may not, depending on kind of the situation, pretty much. And I've just got speed here so that after a Sticky Web, I will outspeed a Galvantula. And for those of you who don't know how it works, a Scarf Pokemon with a Sticky Web speed drop will have 1 less speed than its original speed, which is just kind of based on the way Pokemon rounds. Now next up here, I have got my Infernape, max speed of course to tie the Galvantula, and I'm Banded just because it's a great breaker for his team. I'm Iron Fist to boost my Fire Punch and Mach Punch. I'm Dual Fire Stab because I don't always want to take the recoil damage from Flare Blitz. Sometimes I'm just going to want to be able to fire off the Fire Punch if Nape ever gets too weakened, and I don't want to let the thing drop to recoil. Mach Punch just gives me nice priority for things like the Steela, or not the Steela. Well, I guess Steela if I got the Autotomize, but that was a brain. Things like the Sceptile, I meant to say. Next up here, I've got my physically defensive Toxapex. Just a great wall that his team doesn't have too much to punch through at all. T-Spike's very nice in this matchup if he does not opt to bring too much removal or just grounded poison, which is Muck and I didn't think would come. Sludge Bomb lets me hit things like Sceptile and Slurpuff. Scald, just Scald, you don't really need to explain that move here. And next up here, I'm going to bring in my Hitmonlee, and I am outspeeding a max speed Celesteela. The speed also helps me outpace things like Arcanine, and once I already had that speed, I thought I might as well just go for the last outpace Celesteela. And I've got Bullet Punch, which can kind of help me with things like Crobat and Slurpuff if they get weakened enough. Rapid Spin, the main reason I brought this Pokemon, just to deal with his webs and things like that. He doesn't have a spin blocker, so I should be all good to get rid of his hazards in this game. I Jump Kick Reckless, just I wanted to be able to put on some offensive pressure with this thing even while bringing a more defensive set, and that kind of fit the bill. You gotta love that 154 power stab with the Reckless, and Stone Edge will just hit things like Crobat. Now lastly, I've got my Mudsdale. It's specially defensive. Kind of helps me deal with things like Thunderous, I guess. Mostly just a thing that can kind of deter him from locking into his electric move. It helps me get up rocks, which are nice. Roar can help with things like a Celesteal if I wanted to be subbing up and getting annoying. And Toxic's just annoying for his bulkier Pokemon like Milotic and things like that. So that's going to be my team there. I'm just going to go ahead and switch back to the replay. Get my angle right. And here I am just going to go ahead and lead off with my Hitmonlee in case he wanted to lead off with his Galvantula. He instead leads out with Crobat, and that'll of course force me out. I'm just going to go into my Toxapex, which is the safest switching I have for this thing. He's going to go into Arcanine, which is good for me. He only has his Crobat for hazard control, so I'm happy to get my Toxic Spikes up here and force him to defog. He's going to go here into his Thunderous, and I'm just going to make the immediate into my Mudsdale. He's going to go for Psychic. Psychic makes me think that this thing has a very decent chance of being Choice Scarf in particular, but some kind of Choice Lock I think would be very likely. So here I just want to kind of click on my Roar because I think he may want to go into Crobat, and with my Roar, his Pokemon in particular, things like Milotic, Arcanine, Sceptile don't really appreciate being poisoned, and I kind of wanted to get that poison off on him. He's instead going to show that he is not Choice Locked, and he is going to go for a Grass Knot, which is going to hit my Mudsdale a little too well. Mudsdale is going to take some damage there, but my stamina is going to get going. I'll Roar him. He goes down to Galvantula. My thought process here was that if he wants to kill me, he's not getting webs up. And if he doesn't kill me, I'm going to get my rocks up, which are going to be annoying for him. So basically win-win here is kind of what I'm thinking as I just clicked my rocks and Mudsdale. Not like it's the most important thing for me to save at this low of health. He's going to go into Crobat, and I know he's just going to defog here. I'm going to look to capitalize on that by bringing in my Ex-Zam, which puts a ton of pressure on him. And defog means if he is Scarf, then if he is Scarf, he's not hurting me. He does not have anything that really wants to be taking a Psychic right now. It looks like a solid 2 on his whole team. I'm just going to Mega Evolve and click it. And I'm going to see the Crobat go down, which means that his hazard control is non-existent. And Toxapex is going to be able to get up and keep up those T-Spikes, which is nice for me. He'll bring in Galvantula. I'm definitely thinking about Scarf as he does that. Him clicking Bug Buzz only confirms my suspicion. I bring in my Hitmonlee. I just want to click High Jump Kick, which kind of puts pressure on everything. He goes down to Arcanine. It takes quite a bit here. Now my thought process here was that the Arcanine may be faster than my Hitmonlee. It also may not. But even if it is faster than my Hitmonlee, the most likely move it would be clicking is probably Morning Sun. So I thought the risk was relatively low for the gain of taking this Pokemon out. And I'm just going to go ahead and click my High Jump Kick again here. Fortunately, I land it, which is a move as I know as well as anyone does not always do. But we are able to land it there today. He's going to bring in Thunderous. I don't want to leave Hitmonlee in while my attack is reduced. I'll bring in my Zam, which could make use of my thought. Actually, I should explain myself more clearly. My thought process when he brought out the Thunderous was that I would either click Psychic or an Electric move, and I knew that my Zam took either with Trace, tracing his Volt Absorb. So I will go into my Zam on the Thunderous, and he's going to actually show to have U-turn, which is not very good for my Zam. It gets weakened, but it definitely still can do a lot without having that kind of health. He'll bring in my Milotic, which is a little curious to me. He probably just wanted to activate his Burn Orb, I think. I'm just going to go right for an Energy Ball, and he is showing to actually be specially defensive Flame Orb. But it's not looking like he's taking another Energy Ball, so I'm going to fire right off as he goes out into Galvantula. Galvantula is going to take a ton from that Energy Ball. Still, I'm now at this point almost certain that he is Scarf, so I'm just going to go into my Hitmonlee. Interestingly, he opts to click Volt Switch there, which was a little curious to me because my Zam had traced the Volt Absorb, so he could have healed me up there. But I was never leaving my Zam in, so I guess he may have knew that. He brings in his Thunderous, and Psychic is a roll to kill my Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee's more valuable than Mudsdale here, so I'm just going to decide I want to sack off my Mudsdale. I'm just going to click Stealth Rock and concede to let Mudsdale go down, but he's actually going to click U-turn, and my Mudsdale is going to take that. So that's going to backfire on him a little bit, although it will let him recover up on his Milotic, which he wouldn't have otherwise been able to do if he did KO my Mudsdale there. And this is where it gets boring, so I'm going to apologize to you guys there. My smartest play with Milotic is just to bring Toxapex. Oh, no, it didn't get boring yet. Oh, thank the Lord. It will get boring, but stay tuned. I'll skip through the boring. I'm going to bring in my Infernape. I actually brought in my Infernape thinking that he would want to bring in Thunderous on the Pex. And Infernape can really pressure the Thunderous, especially since I know it's not Scarf, and I'm just going to click Flare Blitz. He may have went into Milotic, but I didn't want to risk clicking Close Combat as he stays in, especially when there's no real loss for me. If he does bring in Milotic on Nape, I can just bring my Pex. So I'm going to go into my Darkrai here and just kind of try to speed things up with a flinch. It's a little mistake on my end here because I didn't necessarily calc his set, and I assumed Flame Orb would be more defensive and Dark Pulse would do enough. And I should have, and that's my mistake, but I'm just now going to go here in a Pex. I didn't lose too much from it. And this is, I believe, where it gets boring. Pex on my Milotic, I'm just going to get my spikes up. Pex would eventually win this PP stall war, so it was curious to me that he was so willing to just go through with it for all those turns. Eventually he does bring in the Sceptile, realizing that Pex wins the PP stall war. Sceptile is going to come in. I'm just going to go ahead and click Sludge Bomb on this thing, get some damage off, see what it sets all about. He actually goes for Giga Drain here, which is probably the more annoying thing it could be. He could click Dragon Pulse here, but it's actually a risk for him because I would take that and I would be able to take him out with Sludge Bomb. So I thought it was more likely he'd just go for another Giga Drain, and I'm actually going to make the aggressive play into my Infernape. Sceptile is so weakened that he can't really save it too much anyway. Nape's going to get hit by the Giga Drain, weakened, but it's going to survive. I'm just going to click Mach Punch and try and take this thing out. He's going to go into Milotic and save the Sceptile, but it's still very, very weakened. Milotic's going to get weakened itself, and instead of going back to the PP stall war, which I did not want to do, I'm actually just going to go into Hitmonlee, which I risked this Pokemon, but I just wanted to speed this game up. I have attention deficit, and I hate PP stall. It drives me nuts, so I'm just going to skip out on that and go into my Hitmonlee. Forget about differential. I'll try to save this game before it gets out of hand. I'm going to try and be the hero that this battle does not deserve and just click High Jump Kick with my Hitmonlee. I'm going to crit him, which is unfortunate for him, but really it didn't change too much over the long run of the battle as he protects. Sam was going to be able to come in and force a KO anyway. He might have been able to preserve a little bit of a differential, but I don't think so. So I'm going to bring in my Zam here and just... basically, I'm just going to get a KO while I fumble my words here. Zam will claim a life. Milotic's going to go down. Galvantula comes in here. A little bit of 50-50 here, isn't it? Because he's basically got one attack, right? He could... Whatever he clicks, he's basically going to go down a poison. He has to KO whatever is in front of him this turn. My thought process was that he would click the bug move because it hits this, it hits Mudsdale, hits Darkrai, and that's where my head's at. I think he's just going to go ahead and click the bug move, not the electric move, and I'm going to go into my Toxapex here to take that. He does go for the Giga Drain, which is not what I expected, but not the move that hits Toxapex, so Galvantula will go down there. And he's going to bring in his Sceptile, and I am just going to go ahead and attack the thing with Sludge Bomb. It is weakened, it is not healing itself enough with the Giga Drain, and it will go down there. So that's going to be a GG to my opponent Thunder there. We're going to start off 1-0 +5, which is a pretty good start. I probably could have went for the 6 though if I wanted to have Pex on my low-tech PP stall wars, but life's too short. Life's too short for my low-tech on Pex PP stall, so we'll take that 5-0 gladly. And that's going to be it for this battle. I want to thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a good night.